I said, get confusing, and it's like an optical illusion. Okay, so if you look at this picture here, what do you see? Do you see a seascape or do you see a horse? Okay, so again, state theory or colonial theory, if you're not really looking at it completely, you could see one thing or the other thing, right? If you look at Hawaii, you could say it's colonized, when in fact, it's not colonized, it's a nation state, or vice versa. So you really have to look carefully, okay? Um, I hope everybody can see both seascape and horse, okay? And another example of an optical illusion is here, some street art that people have been doing. A lot of this comes out of Europe, but pretty neat stuff where you can actually, um, think that you're going to dive into a pool of water when you're actually not. Okay, the optical illusion is the bending of the mind's conception of reality, right? So, are these two people on the left, are they going to walk over a waterfall, or are they going to continue walking on the vertical plane? The horizontal plane, sorry. Vertical plane would mean they're going down. And the man on the right, is he going to actually break his head on the concrete or get wet? Okay, so optical illusions. And what we really want to do is discern reality from speculation, basically. Okay, and terminology and understanding context are going to be important, right? If you just look at this waterfall, that context doesn't reveal enough. But if you look at the whole picture, the context reveals to you, okay, this is actually just a painting. Okay, um, and again, back to terminology. Terminology becomes very important, like the word state. It has different interpretations. So we have to make sure we're applying the right terminology to the right theory. Okay, that becomes very, very important, and I cannot emphasize that enough. So a good example would be the word football. Okay, what does the word football mean? Okay, well, in different parts of the world, it's going to mean different things. Okay, so if you look at the picture on the top left, right, you see the greatest American football team ever, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Thank you very much. Um, and I happen to be a Pittsburgh fan, obviously. But so if you ask most Americans and you say the word football, they're going to think of American football, right? So if you go down to the bottom, sort of middle picture there, and you're in places like the South Pacific, Samoa, Tonga, New Zealand, and Australia, right? When you say football, people are going to think about rugby. Okay, this is what they call rugby, but they call it football. And off to the right, you see the picture there. In most places around the world, predominantly the majority of nations and places in the world, when you say football, it means what most Americans call soccer, right? And of course, you see anyone. I'll give you a quick minute to think who the guy in red is over there. That's Cristiano Ronaldo. No longer plays for Manchester, but okay. So anyway, football is kind of neat in that way. HSLP, this slide here is actually meant to sort of show you that this isn't just my field of scholarship, but something that is a pool of scholarship that is coming out of the University of Hawaii at Manoa right now. A group of grad students, PhD students like myself, get together and regularly discuss these issues that are coming out of Hawaii and are actively publishing articles and actively publishing dissertations on the subject, leading to more discovery about the status of the Hawaiian Kingdom and what it meant, what theory it belongs to. Okay, so you guys actually getting this are unique in a lot of Hawaiian studies classes because this is the forefront of scholarship, and this is why you guys are in school. So you guys are actually getting at the graduate level a peek at what's going on. Um, and the article you read on Kalaimoku and others that you'll read coming up are excerpts of dissertations that have been published very recently. Okay, and the Matrix. Everyone loves this slide because if you look at it closely and you think about our theories, the majority of the people have been operating under the assumption that we are in colonial theory. However, like the Matrix, if you take the red pill, your reality will be blown to shreds and you'll be in a whole new way of thinking about things, something that you've never thought of before. Okay, and the kauna, if you remember back to that phrase, of this is that our lead starring man, Keanu Reeves, who is Hawaiian by the way, is the first cousin of the author you read, Keanu Sai. So Dr. Keanu Sai, who's really kind of blazed the trail in this whole area of research, is Keanu Reeves' first cousin. So the Keanus have done well, and the Hawaiian was the one that blew up the Matrix. Nice going. So this information kind of has that impact as well. So let's do a little bit of recap here. Unification and recognition. Okay, so this takes us back to Kamehameha's rise to power. And so we know that pre-contact and post-contact, right? Pre-contact, post-contact divided by 1778. Arrival of Captain James Cook, as we saw that presentation. So back then, right, prior to the unification of the islands, Hawaii was divided into 3 different kingdoms. Okay, we had Kalaniʻopuʻu, who was conqueror and ruler of Hawaii Island. We had Kahekili over Oahu, Molokai, Maui, and Kaumuali'i over Kauai Ni'ihau. Well, let me stop to sort of highlight the fact that prior to Kamehameha's unification of the island, Maui usually had its own ali'i, and the Oahu chiefs had their own lines. However, during the time of the 1790s, when Kamehameha was unifying the islands, Kahekili's territory via war had extended to these islands. So we had actually at that time 3 separate kingdoms. And then in 1810, Kamehameha I unifies all of the islands under one rule. Okay, and if you look at the bottom there, it says Hawaiian. One of the thoughts of the origin of the word Hawaiian is that, right, conquerors came from Hawaii Island, right? And as they went from Hawaii to Kaho'olawe to Maui, Molokai, Oahu, right, that became Hawaii. And then after Kamehameha conquered all of the islands, that became Hawaii, right? So Hawaiian, the origin of the term Hawaiian actually comes from an extension of territory from around one island to surrounding all the islands. Okay, so back to our 5 elements and requirements for a state. Okay, so define territory, population, government, treaties, independence. Okay, so in 1810, right, Kamehameha I and his sons were thinking about this 5 elements. They were thinking about nation states. They had been introduced to nation states and other nations visiting their shores. And Kamehameha II, Liholiho, went out and visited other nations. He was in England actually, even when he died. He died in England in 1824. So what happens here is this idea of perspectives, looking at the Hawaiian kingdom, looking at Hawaii as now a defined territory, and looking at all these things that were needed to be done in order for the Hawaiian kingdom to join the family of nations. So that was it. The thought was we can join the family of nations. So defined territory was completed. Think about this as a checklist. So back in 1810, the ali'i were looking at this like a checklist, right? Thinking, well, there's a lot of powerful nations out there, and during the early 1800s, late 1700s, the world was a very, very different place. You got to sort of realize that fact, that the world was not as it was now. It was a very dangerous place. It was a place full of colonization. It was a place full of wars. It was a place full of voyagers going to one place and decimating a population, taking over its resources and its people. And this was very, very much happening all over the world. And news of this, of course, arrived on Hawaiian shores with the multitude of visitors that came here. So the ali'i were very, very forward-thinking. They were forward-thinking in trying to protect their islands and their people. And one of the ways to do this was to join the family of nations. Because as we're going to see, when you join the family of nations, you gain equal status or co-equal status. Okay, so define territory. Okay, this is the punch list. This is the list that needed to be done in order to join the family of nations. And our ali'i from Kamehameha onward